So I went to the Philippines with my skateboard. And I had this plan, I don't know how I got it, to skate across northern Luzon, all the way from Claveria to Manila. It was over 400 miles. I had no idea where I would end up at the end, or even if I would make it at all. I really experienced something that I never knew I would experience before. So I'm gonna share with you the stories behind my story skating across the Philippines. And I've been getting a lot of questions lately about how did you do it? What did you do? It was incredible. The journey was something I had never expected. And I really learned so much along the way. And hopefully I can share with you something that might inspire you to go out and do something similar. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about these main points. So number one is, why did I do this trip? Number two, what did I do to prepare for it? How did I plan? How did I get funding for this trip? What were the hardest moments along the way? What were some of the best moments along the trip? What did I learn from making this documentary? And number seven, my advice to you. So first, I wanna share why the heck did I do this trip? A lot of people said I was crazy when I was planning it. And they're like, what? Are you insane? You're probably gonna die from heat exhaustion. The roads are probably very, very bad, and just, you know, all the kind of excuses you can think. And I had gone to the Philippines like maybe 5 or 6 times before in the past for various reasons, you know, trips with the school or just, you know, visiting family, you know, friends. And I remember we were taking a bus ride somewhere to go visit this farm. And along the way, I was looking out the window and I had this thought. I was like, wow, you know what? This might be really interesting to see what it would be like on a skateboard. I had no idea that it would be possible, and that thought was just simmering in my mind for the rest of that trip. I was like, this would be pretty sweet. I also wanted to push myself a little bit harder. So when I got back from the Philippines on that trip, I started planning and I started thinking about things. But really, that's kind of the reason behind it. Is I've always had kind of these impulses inside me that kind of feel like urges, like I need to get out, I need to go, I need to do this, I need to do something different. And that impulse just kind of nagged at me for a long time. And so eventually I made the decision. I knew I had to go see the Philippines on a skateboard. So what did it take to prepare? How did I prepare for this trip? First thing I did was I needed to figure out what part of the Philippines or what route I was gonna do. I was pretty familiar with Luzon because I had been there a lot. I went on Google Maps and I started looking at different routes on Google Street View, and I would just pretend I was actually skating on the road when I was looking through the Street View. A lot of people always told me, oh, the roads are so bad. But honestly, I can tell you the roads in northern Luzon, like that go along the rice paddies, they're actually pretty smooth and they're very, very skatable. Not everything, but there's a lot of them. Then I would start planning out different cities. For example, I would start in Claveria and then I would calculate how many miles, and I would calculate through Google Maps. So Google Maps was pretty much one of the greatest tools in preparing the trip and the logistics. On average, I would say probably 30 miles to 45 miles. Some days it would be 60 miles skating each day. And so I didn't want to overdo it too much in the beginning. So I had to plan out the distance between each stop along the way. Then I had to figure out what I'm gonna do at night when I need to sleep. I thought about camping for a second, but I realized that was probably not gonna be an option because you have to bring the equipment with you, and nah, it just wouldn't work. You have to be as light as possible. So I actually went on Airbnb. Luckily, there were some good places that I could rent for the night and sleep, and they were pretty convenient along the path that I needed to go through. I kind of looked at and started contacting some friends and some family to ask if I can also stay with them for a night. I always kind of felt weird. I didn't want to always be too intrusive. There's a lot of wonderful, gracious people that were actually willing to have me stay. Then I started thinking about what equipment can I bring. Really, all I did was bring one camera. I brought a Sony a7 III and 3 lenses. A Samyang 35mm, another Samyang 14mm, and then an 85mm Sony lens. And I brought like 3 batteries, I think it was. So every night along the way, I had to be charging all of this equipment. I brought a gimbal as well, the Zhiyun crane gimbal, you know, kind of an old one, but it was super light. I also brought my laptop, which was a mistake because it was a Apple 16-inch laptop, and yeah, the weight plus the charger, every day I regretted it. But I was able to edit some stuff along the way, but definitely not worth it. If you're gonna skate long distances over 400 miles, you want to be literally as light as possible. So I also thought about, okay, what shirt am I gonna bring, what shorts? I brought one pair of denim jeans. And then I started thinking, how much money do I need to bring with me? If I need to buy a little bit of food, I wasn't planning on buying any souvenirs. I had some emergency money too as well. And then of course, I brought my debit card because you never know if you're gonna need that. Then I started looking at flights. So I chose to go in late July, August time. And that was actually the rainy season in northern Luzon, but it rained a ton. And I guess that was part of the journey. Also, you know, preparing to do a skate trip like this, I would spend maybe 30 to 45 minutes every single day in Hawaii skateboarding along this bike path. And what that did was give me the ability to start thinking about how it's gonna be skateboarding long term. So I'd probably do 5 or 6, maybe 7 miles a day just to kind of get my legs kind of in shape and working. I had this app on my phone, and it was like a speedometer app, and it kind of told me how fast I was going so I can calculate how fast I needed to go each day to be able to reach those designated distances from city to city. So a lot of people thought, like, why wouldn't you bring a longboard? Because, you know, like, longboards are good for cruising long distances. I just accustomed to skating like trick boards, but I knew that the small wheels would not work on this trip. I went online and looked for some wheels that weren't too big, not too bulky, and I decided to get 75mm wheels that worked pretty well. And the problem was that the wheels were so big, and I didn't really use really thick risers from the truck to the board. So I had to kind of modify the board with a sander. And of course, I was thinking about rain. It's gonna be really wet, just in case. So I bought ceramic bearings. I'll put the link down below if you guys want to get some, but they're pretty good. So there's always an element of uncertainty whenever you're planning something like this, and that's kind of the beauty of the experience. There were some memorable moments that I'm grateful for because I didn't plan as much. Does that make sense? But I made sure that I had the essentials down because that's really important. I also bought an MP3 player, a cheap little one. It was like 20 bucks on eBay, just so I could listen to music along the way. That kind of gave me some inspiration and motivation. Yeah, I didn't bring a water bottle. Too much weight. I had to just drink water along the way, and I hoped and prayed that a Sari Sari store would be happily smiling, waiting to be visited. In terms of my budget, I probably spent around $250, $260 total on miscellaneous stuff, you know, on some Airbnbs, and just getting food along the way. I didn't really buy much. So when I'm planning how to get to a location, I look on Google Maps, and sometimes I don't always put a direct flight to where I want to go. I look on the map and leave the options open, and then I look for a place that might be close to where I want to go. I actually flew from Honolulu Airport in Hawaii to Osaka Airport, and that was a lot cheaper than flying directly from Honolulu to Manila. And then from Osaka, I bought another really cheap flight to Manila. Ended up saving around $400 that way. That's a good tip if you guys want to plan something on a budget. Always look at surrounding countries or places if your visa allows for it. So get a flight to that place and then buy another flight if it's cheaper. So in terms of budget, everything was paid for out of my own wallet. I just funded the whole thing by myself. I could have had some opportunities for some people to help fund me. But at the moment, it was kind of all experimental, and I didn't want to disappoint them or whatever if somehow it got canceled or I got hurt or whatever. But there's actually lots of people out there, lots of brands, lots of companies that would be willing to help you out if you just reach out to them. Create a cool and inspiring pitch and show them what you'd offer their brand in terms of marketing or publicity and anything. And ask them, hey, would you be willing to contribute this amount of money? Or you can even do it with gear for camera equipment. And that's a good way of getting some sponsorship or whatever. So what were the hardest moments along the trip? I'd say the first day when I first got there, I was kind of nervous. I took this bus from Tuguegarao all the way up there, and I'd stayed at some family relative's place. and they wished me luck, and I was on the bus. I got off the bus. First thing I had to do was go pee, and I just remember just second guessing everything, and I was like, should I really do this? And I had no idea if it was gonna be possible. I literally walked from the bus stop, and I just was like, all right, we're here. My backpack's already super heavy. I'm already sweating a ton. And so I just walked to the beach, and I just sat there on the beach, and I was like, all right, so this is gonna be it. And so I figured if I don't do it, it's gonna be pretty bad. I don't really talk about this in the documentary, but there's a time when I went to go eat, and I went to go to the restroom, and the food was on the table, and the girl, she came and she took it away. Before I came back, she thought I was done with it. But I was feeling a little sick, like I wanted to throw up, and I just felt so bad. I was kind of dehydrated. Just being under the sun the whole day, and I was feeling like literally sick to my stomach, and I wanted to just kind of like chill for a couple days and not continue. And then towards the end of the trip, like pulled a muscle in my calf, and it kind of was hurting, but over time it actually got worse, and I didn't really take a lot of time to kind of rest and relax and let it recuperate. And so towards the end, it was actually really hurting. Every pedal that I took along the way, it was like pain. I kind of know now what I need to do and how I need to like skate a little more efficient in certain parts, like when I'm going downhill, to avoid that. And certain stretches, maybe I didn't stretch as much as I needed to, but that was pretty difficult, and that was really hard. So some of the best moments along the way were when I was able to just talk to people along the road. Just learning about how they live was really, really rewarding. I didn't mention how much they kind of motivated me to keep going. I can't imagine being in a place where everyone's like looking down on you or getting mad because you're skating across their land, or looking at you because you're a foreigner, or maybe you don't belong there. It'd probably be a lot harder. But honestly, just meeting those people really changed the whole experience. It made the experience so wonderful. I love the unknown. I love stepping out into places that I don't know what will happen, and I don't know who I will meet. That was really, really cool. Reached Manila, that was just like, wow, this whole thing, this whole idea that I had to skate, that's many miles, you know, in the provinces, in the heat, in the sun, in the rain, it actually is possible. So not only did I just feel super excited, super tired, and ready to rest, I was just like, what could I do next? What can I improve upon on the next adventure? And it made me think, wow, this is possible. What else is possible? Also, like, there are moments when I was skateboarding and I was in some areas where there's like very little traffic, not a lot of cars, a couple tricycles, maybe a couple scooters cruising through, and I would just be listening to music, and I just be in this zone. And it just felt so good. Like, I really take in all the scenery around me, and I really, really enjoy it. It really, really just felt good. So what did I learn from this whole experience doing this documentary? I learned that it was like really hard to actually film this thing. It was a lot trickier than I thought. I had these ideas of how I could film myself. Originally I thought about bringing someone to help me film, but I'm kind of actually happy that I went by myself, because I was able to take my time and go back and see certain shots that are certain scenarios that I wanted to get shots of, and not have to worry about, oh no, this person wants to keep skating or wants to keep going, or they don't want to stay back, or they don't see the same vision or creative vision of what I want to film. And so being alone allowed me full control of being able to shoot. And so I had nothing holding me back. I had no kind of time limit except for the one that I set for myself. A lot of times I'd take the camera and I'd skate ahead maybe 100 yards. I'd set it up in a certain location, and then I'd skate past it. And then a lot of times I would kind of ask people along the road, hey, would you mind getting a shot? And they're kind of like, what? You're skateboarding? You want us to film you? And then they just hold the camera like this. I kind of coached them a little bit how to get the camera kind of steady, and that actually helped a lot. And it also took a little bit of trust, you know, because you're giving your camera to a stranger alongside the road that you've never met before in a foreign country, and you're hoping that they're gonna get a good shot, number one, and number two, you're hoping that it's gonna be there when you come back to grab your camera. I felt a certain comfort and trust with a lot of the people I met, That took some, some trust. I also learned that, you need to pack very light on these trips. You need to be extremely light because every pound is magnified when you're on a skateboard on the road, and the sun just makes it heavier. I don't know how, but it does. You need to be prepared, and you need to be really focused on your water levels. I learned that you can easily get dehydrated, and it can get very, very dangerous. You need to make sure you're having enough electrolytes and water all the time. So you need to be very cautious. You need to understand how your body can adapt to such a trip like this. That's why I kind of prepared before in really hot conditions. I also learned that there's people all over the world that have good intentions, and there's people that maybe don't. If you are always being the best example that you can be, you have the power to bring out the best in people too. So you can't change people, you can't force them to become someone different, but you can set an environment, physically set an environment by the way you are projecting your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and just your attitude out there. But I've never had an experience along the trip where I was putting myself in danger or it was not safe for me at all. That said, you should still be always cautious, still be vigilant, and still be aware of the people you're talking to, people you're meeting to, because you never know, there could be people with bad intent. But in general, people are amazing and they're willing to help. I also learned that there were some days where I did not want to film at all. I just wanted to skate and just relax and just completely enjoy just skating for the sake of skating. So always be focused on going that extra mile to get the shot. Even if it's the worst and hardest thing to do at the moment, just go out and do it. Because later when you're on the computer editing all this stuff, all this footage, you're gonna be like, oh man, I really wish I had that shot. So this is my advice to you guys. If you want to do something similar or you have an idea that you've always dreamed up, there's so many things that are gonna stand in your way from getting it done. There's gonna be scheduling issues, you may be worried about money, family, are gonna discourage you for sure. And people are gonna say it's not possible, you're gonna get hurt, you might be crazy. And a lot of them, they're just saying that because they're concerned and they care about you. The more comfortable you get with the unknown, that uncertainty that lingers, the more ideas and the more situations will come into your experience that will help you out. So I'm already thinking about the next journey I want to do. This time I want to make a series of episodes. So thank you all of you guys for your support. So stay tuned for more videos. Make sure to follow this channel, subscribe. Till the next video, we'll see you guys soon.